Hello, everyone. I'm Jake.
I'm Hannah. Hello. How are you doing?
We're
I
gonna-
hope I hope we find you well on this nightmare that is Dave Rubin's book.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say just nightmare.
It's
Which
okay.
it's not that
I was
bad.
gonna
Today is the electoral college voting day, so we get to yet again watch all the COPE occur. It's a beautiful day in America where half the country is like, "Wait a second, I don't like that," and they do everything they can and fail to
a
prevent
group
that from happening. And it's just
I I read this to you before we started recording. A group tried to give Arizona's 11 electoral votes to Trump fraudulently by forging a document.
yeah.
That's not good.
That's
That's
not
a felony.
That's isn't that the thing you said was happening
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
didn't like, or
I-
or is it weirdly? I'm starting to suspect something. Let me know if you think I'm onto something.
Okay.
I don't think they care about election corruption at all. I'm starting to think maybe they just wanted their guy to win. I have a suspicion. You
Are you
think I'm
telling?
no,
Wait, hold on. Is your supposition that people on the right care more about winning like it's a sport than caring about having fundamental policy positions that are based upon moral pillars?
That couldn't be it. They continue to lose. So, we're here with Dave Rubin, also a loser. He wants to talk to us about the shooty pew pews, which is a thing. This is the Second Amendment, which I'm sure this entire video will now be demonetized. You can't talk about it for some reason, but that's okay. We're gonna do it anyway, but it's not gonna take a long time because Dave Rubin has his deep and vast knowledge of right-wing politics comes down to like sort of a paragraph. So we're talking about gun control, which we're leftists. We're not anti-gun. We're not libs.
No.
We're not libs. But we do have disagreements still. He's not talking to us. He thinks we want to ban guns. That's not the case.
Could I point out the obnoxious way in which he begins?
I would love you to. I was going to say maybe we should preface with our beliefs. Fuck that. Let's just go in with what Dave. Let's go raw dog. Raw dog it with Dave real quick. Let's just see how it works. He didn't warm us up at all.
He says, "Trigger warning, I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment." It's kind of a pun, too.
You think that's why he did that?
I don't know.
That's
I
definitely
think
why he did that.
I don't
He
know
thought it
if
was
I've
funny.
heard Dave Rubin stand up. I don't know if he's clever enough to do that intentionally. But anyway, yeah, Dave, that's fine. We know people on the right are supporters of the Second Amendment,
Right.
and I'm fine with people owning guns too. I don't
Which
really
technically
care.
means that we support the Second Amendment. It's just the means by which we support you having guns and shit.
Sure.
In my opinion.
He even goes on to say, and I think this is important for the points we're going to be making too, he says, "With that out of the way, I believe there's a sane middle ground between everyone using a bazooka and a blanket ban on firearms." Basically admitting that, again, regulation is something that is necessary in some way or another. We're all just sort of deciding where that line is. On each separate issue, we're all sort of determining the line. We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
However, I think Dave's feeling is a bit more
Bad.
loosey-goosey. let's say.
Loosey-goosey. Okay. That's a very charitable way to put it. I don't think we need to start the discussion at bazooka. I think he brings up a lot of statistics. That I mean, I could talk about them independent of his statistics, or after you read them, it is up to you. You are the captain of this ship today. You're in charge, Captain Hannah. We should have got you a hat.
I have a
hat.
captain's hat. I have
Is
one.
it on right now? You pointed at right near you. Is it right near next to your face?
It's over there.
Well, that's too far. Anyway, just imagine there's a nice captain's hat. So, is there particular statistics you want to discuss, or do we just want to like freeball this? I don't need to know a single thing Dave Rubin is saying. You get it.
This one was egregious to me.
Okay.
He says, contrary to popular belief, assault rifles were not the preferred choice of weapon in fatal shootings. Most firearm-related killings are carried out with handguns. FBI statistics for 2016 show that handguns caused 7,105 deaths, while rifles caused 374. Completely missing the point that usually when we talk about assault rifles, they tend to be used not in your day-to-day shootings of people having...
Which is the saddest sentence you've ever said.
Sure. Not your day-to-day.
Not your run-of-the-mill murders.
Shoot. No, we're talking about usually mass shooting events. Yeah. Sandy Hook.
Vegas.
The Vegas shoot. Was he using a bump stock for that? Is that what triggered? Is that what triggered the bans? Like, I remember that.
Yeah, because smartly people were like, wait a second, that's basically machine guns.
Right. So we're not talking about, like, individual instances of people shooting each other, like in a mugging or in some sort of gang-related crime. We're talking about times when people go into a place and try and shoot a bunch of other people. So we understand that there are fewer deaths caused by assault rifles, but they tend to be more egregious. They're not... Yeah. I don't know, a drug deal gone bad. It's someone walking into a movie theater and lighting the place up, and that's a very different position, morally speaking.
I can address both at the same time, however. Very easy. So here's the basic way to do it. Because I agree handguns are a problem, because handguns allow you to... have you ever shot a handgun, Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay. One with a... Was it a revolver, or was it one with a magazine?
It had a magazine.
Okay, so you understand the fucking raw power, which I don't really. Shooting a gun is fine. If you like that, you like that. I'm fine with it. I had a license. If you're watching this and you're like, you know what, I'm a big time fucking gun owner and it makes my pee hard, I want you to have your gun, okay? The thing I don't want you to have is something with a magazine in it. Sorry, unless it's magazine fed and it's bolt action. It's not like spring loaded. So the problem with magazines is you can pop them in really quick. You can also have another one preloaded and pop that in, pop out, pop in, and that's a militarized situation. Like that's something that I think a 9mm, probably police officers can have that. Obviously there's a whole separate discussion about police that we can discuss, but I think that it makes a little bit of sense for not every police officer, but police officers that respond to shootings to have equipment that would allow them to properly respond. Whether they're protecting a community or themselves, it makes a little bit of sense depending on what's going on. So, other than that, just for citizens in general, I don't need 15 shots. I don't need 12 shots. I don't need 17. I don't need whatever you got going on there. I don't need that for self-defense. 6 is probably fine. A revolver is fine. Now, you can still unload that relatively as fast as you can. A normal pistol. Darwin does not like being shut the fuck up. Hey, buddy, quiet! I'm talking about guns, and I will recastrate you. Okay, I think he's fine. No, he's not. Darwin, stop, please. You can. The idea is basically to limit the amount of potential to go overboard without limiting the potential of you being able to protect yourself. If you have a gun, most of the time, the idea behind having a gun, and you'll hear pro right-wing people support this idea, is just having it. The threat of the violence is deterrent enough for self-defense causes, and that's important. That's ideal. I want you to be able to have that. There are situations where, if Terry Crews decides to go on a violent spree, he's going to be pretty effective if we don't have an equalizer in that field. Terry Crews could beat both of us up at the same time with a single punch. I don't know how that works, but it will. But if we have a gun or something, you're able to you're more able to deal with a major threat. If someone else has a gun, for instance, if someone else is just bigger than you, if there's more than one person, stuff like that. So I think it makes a lot of sense for someone to have all sorts of I guess these smaller arms that we're not codifying specifically. It's always like, that's a handgun. Well, there's a difference, right? then we can talk about calibers and shit later. That's for other people to figure out, really. But I think you solve a lot of the mass shooting problems, which is the problem, along with just the ease of being able to spray it in general.
He goes on to say, furthermore, 4 times as many people in the United States are killed with knives or cutting instruments than with all rifles combined. FBI data shows that 1,604 people were killed by the former category in 2016. That number increased the following year, with knives responsible for 1,691 murders in 2017. Again, this statistic implies that knives are inherently more dangerous than guns, even though clearly that isn't really what the statistic is saying, because knives are much easier to get and more numerous than guns. There are a lot of guns in the United States, but there are more knives because people have knives in their kitchens. People have knives for hunting. People have knives for whatever, for collections. And they're very easy to get. I can go to the mall and go get a knife without a background check.
Or a sword.
So all we've basically agreed to is that the ease of getting certain weapons makes it more likely that they're going to use those weapons in some sort of attack. I agree.
Yeah.
Which is why certain gun regulations can help cut down on these things. Again, I'm fine with people owning guns, but we're talking about things like banning bump stocks, right? We're talking about reasonable restrictions that make it more difficult to use those weapons in a way that can harm many people quickly, because that's clearly an issue that we have in the United States.
100%.
Did you have anything to add before I move to the next step? Sorry.
Not necessarily there's just this fundamental misunderstanding about, like, we're not trying to prevent all violence. We're trying to make sure that the violence that does happen is mitigated to not involve those outside of the violent like circumstance, right? It's like if I got a fucking machine gun, I could probably mow down whatever the fuck I want. If I have a revolver, sure, there could be a problem, but you have to reload that shit. And for some reason, right-wingers like to be like, well, what about, like, this guy? They show me a YouTube video of this professional fucking cowboy. He's like, pow, 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 pow. Fing, pow, 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 pow. It's like, who the fuck is that guy? I didn't know that we were having, I can't even think of a Arthur from the fucking Red Dead. Like he's not, that's not everybody. That's not even normal. That's not even like in the average American gun user's repertoire. None of us are that good at it. And that's
your average
the kind
incel
of the
with
point.
a gun can't replicate that sort of.
Not even close. And even if they practice a bunch, they're still not going to be able to, like, blow everyone away 6 shots at a time with a 9mm. Like, I don't want to be shot by a 9mm, but I'd rather be shot by a 9mm 6 times than 30 times with a 5.56. I don't know about you, or even shot at 30 times with a 5.56, which is the standard round for, like, an AR-15. Like, it's not ideal. There's more bullets happening. I only have so many organs. I need most of them. I need I need the blood in there. There's all sorts of stuff. And when you have fewer wounds, you can. Sandy Hook goes so differently. Pulse goes so differently. Every one of these shootings goes so differently if there's bolt action, if there's pump action, or if there's revolvers. That's really it. If it's bolt action fed instead of automatically fed, if it's pump action, which is again another form of that. I don't know if you realize this, that tube underneath the top of the shotgun is where the shells go.
Yeah.
And then they cock it and it pops up and then it shoots again. And then it ejects, and then you can do it again. That's how that works. That's the whole thing. Same concept with the other ones. It makes it so much slower, but it doesn't impede your self-defense. Unless it only impedes your self-defense in one of 2 cases. Number 1, okay? You're John Wick, all right? John gets whatever he wants. He's a professional. Number 2, zombie apocalypse. In that case, laws are not a thing. We don't have to worry about it. Go get whatever you want. I don't care. Get your bazooka. There's nobody coming after you in hordes. It's not a video game.
Did you see the movie coming out by the same writer of John Wick that's basically John Wick, but with Saul Goodman?
Bob Odenkirk. Put respect on his name. Looks really good. I think I'm into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
He goes on to say, suicide accounts for 60% of America's gun-related deaths. reported the annual review of public health in 2015. This is a go-to for people on the right who want to go to bat for guns. Again, I'm fine with owning guns. I'm going to repeat that till the end of this video because I want people to be clear on that.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't detract from the number of gun deaths. I don't know why people on the right will be like, well, 60% of gun deaths are suicides, and me go, oh, well, I guess they don't count. Availability of things like guns for activities like suicide is part of why those suicides are successful. You can 100%. See this in the statistical difference between women who commit suicide or attempt suicide and men. Men are more likely to use guns. And even though men attempt suicide at a lower rate than women, more successful suicides come from men because they tend to use guns, whereas women tend to go for pills or something like cutting your wrists in a bathtub, things like that. So the idea that, like, just because they're suicides, the fact that it's a gun involved somehow completely divorces it from the statistics is completely ridiculous. Yeah. And maybe I'd feel better about this stat, and I'd give it to them if people on the right were in favor of expanding availability of, like, mental health care.
This is the big crux. This is the crux of the entire conversation right here.
Sure. And in favor of things like, I don't know, Medicare for all or anything that would expand mental health coverage for people so they're able to go get help when they want to instead of going down that path of suicide, right? But Republicans don't want any of that stuff. They want people to shut the fuck up and deal with their own problems. Yeah. So I'm not going to hear it about this like, oh, 60% are suicides. You're damn right they are. That just points to other problems that you're also not addressing.
Right. And the number one stressor on people in regards to suicide is usually financial stuff. The other one's relationship issues. Like should we maybe talk about the financial stresses of American people and how we could better solve that? Now, Dave Rubin would say free market stuff would figure it out. They just have to work really hard and pull themselves out by the bootstraps. But some people can't do that. They're not available. And even some people aren't willing to do that. And that's fine, too. Like, I don't know why we have to place value of human life. Like, oh, well, if you don't want to, then I guess maybe you should just use the gun. Like, no, maybe we should consider the fact that maybe that person's just mentally unwell in a way that doesn't allow them to hold a steady job, and that's not their fault. It's a symptom. It's not like you wouldn't blame someone with pertussis for coughing while you're blaming someone with a mental health issue for being sad. Like it's a symptom of that. It's what happens, and there's just this weird stigma that it pervades throughout. And this is not. Sadly, this is not just a right versus left issue. This is like a human issue where people just fucking do not understand that mental ailments are physical ailments. Like, because for some reason, we have detached the brain and our thoughts from the rest of ourselves. And we don't understand that that's quite literally connected to it, which is why you can get, like, high. If you do something to your body, like ingest a chemical that messes up your brain, which is you. Surprise! Like, same thing. So imagine if you're just your hormones are weird and you have like low serotonin or whatever. Like, and then now you're not feeling great. Like we need.
Speaking of hormones, I could talk about this in regard to, like, I've had mental changes since I started hormones. I don't even know. It was probably almost 2 years ago at this point, maybe a year and a half. I don't even know. But anyway, like, the longer I've been on them, I've had, like, mental changes in mood. So, like, the idea that, I don't know, maybe to someone like me or anyone who's gone on, like, something like SSRIs or anything that affects you mentally, you should be very clear that, like, mental health care is affected by the things that go in your body and the chemical processes therein. It's so wild.
Yeah. Do you find aggression has been limited? You weren't.
Oh, yes. Like, you wouldn't believe it. But I also wasn't very competitive to begin with, but it's, like, entirely gone now. I feel much more understanding of other people. It's very strange.
That's weird.
I like it. I like it a lot, but it's just like, there is a difference. There's a difference, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I believe you. I don't think, my personal experience with this is insofar as being, and I was steeped in the toxic aspects of masculinity my whole life, as most pretty much if you play sports. I was gonna say most dudes that play sports, the women get it a lot too as well, and this is just from a cis perspective as well. I mean, not and straight. So I don't even know how that manifests in other ways. I'm sure it specifically the internalized aspect of it is probably very high. But like you have to like actively work away from that. Like you're taught to be aggressive and you're taught to I guess knee jerk react in ways that would be like what's a good example of this? Oh, I watched a stand up, Daniel Sloss. It's from last year. It's from 2019, and it's called X. If you've never seen a Daniel Sloss stand up, he's really really good. I think he's Irish or something. Maybe he's Scottish. I don't know. He's got an accent, but I can't quite place it. North England though, I think. Minimum. So his whole thing is he'll do normal stand up and then he usually talks about something serious and then we'll sort of use that as the thesis of like the rest of it. And this one was specifically a situation where one of his friends had experienced sexual assault. And he was also talking about the conversation revolved around toxic masculinity as well, and like understanding aspects of that within yourself, and sort of like learning about that and how to be better for it, because we do have sadly part of it is just the way that human brains have sort of evolved over time. There is a lizard brain in the back of our heads that make us do stupid shit like see faces in the dark and have like fight or flight and have like aggressive attitudes or fearful attitudes towards just weird shit. And it leads to a lot of social problems, and we try to work that out and everything. Racism is a great example of this. That's partly lizard brain, so it's partly like, oh, that looks different, that makes me spooked, and then you have to unlearn that behavior. Similarly, his natural reaction to finding out his friend had been assaulted was, I'm gonna beat his ass, that's toxic. It's not and very presciently his friend had been like, that's like, that makes him the victim. I don't want that to happen. That's not how it's supposed to work. And then there was like this sort of like he I think he expressed it very well from a perspective that I empathize with, which is trying to not be the shitty version of basically our dads when we were growing up, that you learned that sort of behavior from, and like the other men and stuff in your area, especially when we were millennials and stuff. And this pervades within this conversation, which is why I'm bringing it up. The broader conversation of the gun debate is a culture of, I wish they fucking would. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish they would fucking break in and I could shoot everybody. And then they jack off and onto their gun. And it's like, this mindset is like the epitome of that toxic aggression beneath. And I think if you didn't do anything else besides address mental health, make it free and make it accessible to every American citizen, if you didn't touch a single gun law, this would vastly affect every form of gun death, except for probably the ones spurned by poverty. It wouldn't necessarily get rid of it. It would just affect it in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. Was there anything else? I didn't have any other specific statistics.
It's pretty short, and he's not very good at defending his own position. If you're pro-Second Amendment, you should be pro-Second Amendment in a way that makes people safer. And if guns make people safer, the more guns we have, the safer we should be. And that is obviously not the case. It is not an inverse statistic. The way that you're safer is if the technology that you have at hand is something that is good for the job that you need it to do. There are not 30 to 50 feral hogs outside your home. You don't need an AR-15. What you do need is, well, not need, what you might want and maybe feel as though you need is some personal protection, a shotgun, a handgun, etc. That's totally fine with me. I think that's absolutely fine. Hunting, bolt action rifle, whatever. I I don't know why Second Amendment proponents would want an expansion on the rest of them besides it makes them feel good and they have this sort of like fantasy of violence. I've never heard them say anything other than violent fantasies. It's usually always tyranny, government, robbers, I have to protect my family, like that kind of shit. It's never like, I just like guns. I just like them a lot. I'm a collector, I like guns a lot. It's always this, I'm going to use this someday. I'm 100% going to use this someday to shoot someone. And that's not what we should be doing. That's not the mindset we should have for guns. Anything else?
Nah, I'm already looking at the next chapter.
Yeah, so I think guns are done right now. So that's it. If you disagree, that's fine. I don't really care. There's a lot of people who get really heated about this.
Yeah, understandably, it's a huge debate in the United States.
I know,
because
I just don't understand get heated
people
on the other
love
side.
their guns, but they also recognize people get fucking killed by guns all the time. And also at the beginning of this chapter, I didn't mention it, but Dave pulls out the old guns don't shoot people shoot people thing, which is a vacuous statement that means nothing because we're talking about the tool being used to murder people.
Right.
We understand that it's being controlled by a person. That's
I have
not
no
the point.
idea why we can't be both. I don't know why. Like, we wear seatbelts. It's the seatbelted guns. Like should we allow rocket booster 300 mile per hour supercars in the streets? No. Imagine
if we had, like, I don't know. Imagine if we had an issue in the country where planes were crashing constantly. Sure. And the airline came up and said, planes don't kill people.
Pilots
kill people, right. Or like engineers kill people. Like, sure. It means nothing. Yeah. It would be a problem regardless of how you word it. Stop.
It's an operator issue. Anyway, go buy your guns, gays. It's the best way to get any sort of reasonable gun laws, is if leftists buy guns and people that are minorities buy guns. And if
Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of California, signed restrictive gun laws because the Black Panthers were getting guns.
I mean, that's just how it works. They don't want you to have guns. They want guns for them. So, and by the way, they are kind of fun. Again, like, I've had a license and it's fun. If you treat it like a tool, and like and it can be for recreation as well. But it's a tool you use for recreation. You wouldn't point a bow and arrow at somebody. Don't point a gun at people, and keep them safe. And if you have kids, please don't keep that shit out. My dad did.
Lock that stuff away and do so in such a way that your kids can't find it. Your kids are probably smarter than you think they are. They will find a key if you don't, like, keep it on you, or keep it in a place where they definitely can't find. Or if it's a code, don't make it their birthday. Don't do that. That's stupid.
Anyway, so you have a wonderful time with your shooty shoots. Enjoy your shooting your skeets. That's what you do with them. You shoot skeet. I knew a kid in high school. He got he had a big scar. He had like a cut on his face. He came to school with a big cut on his face, and we're like, "Dude, what happened?" He's like, "I don't want to tell you guys." We're like, "That's weird. Why don't you want to tell us?" He's like, "Because you're gonna make fun of me." And we're like, "Well, no, we won't. What the? It's a huge cut on his face." Well, I guess it was on this side. I think it doesn't matter. And he worked at the field club, the field and gun club or whatever, the one over there. And he's like, bows his head. I got hit in the face with a skeet, and we lost our fucking minds. We lost our fucking minds. Like we did make fun of him relentlessly for 3 years. He got obliterated by skeet, which is fucking super funny. Shout out to that guy. His name's Chris. I hope you're doing well, a guy who doesn't watch this show. So have a good time. Enjoy that. We got more Dave Rube coming up, and it's what is it?
Hate crimes. Yeah, he downplays them.
When will my penance end? No? Not happening?
No.
All right, cool. Follow and subscribe and do all that stuff. We have Twitch channels.
Links in the description.
Do it!